Hello guys, how you doing? This is an interview I did with Tommy Shaw back on 10/18/84. He was shooting a video, I think it was his first solo record, at the A&M Studios, and we hung out for a little bit, and I spoke to him. So yeah, this is a cool interview. Great guitar player, singer, writer, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Thanks, guys.
Okay.
So that the time was right to step out and try something?
Probably should have done it sooner. But just, I think I had to get mad before I got glad.
Really?
Yeah, because it was
Mad musically or mad emotionally?
emotionally and musically. So there's just no way to make the whole thing stop unless you make it stop. Because it's something, once you're successful at something, you have a tendency to want to just keep doing it. Why, you don't want to rock the boat.
Right.
But it was starting to make me a little bit nuts. Because I knew what was around every corner. I knew what was going to be coming up next. And you take the unpredictability out of something like rock and roll, and it just starts not to work anymore. And it was kind of a difficult decision because Styx was doing so well. But I think the one thing that really made me realize it was time to do something different for a while was my lack of contribution to the last project, the Kilroy project. I just all of a sudden found myself with nothing to say about the concept. But I had to have, it was what I was supposed to do, to put music on a Styx album. So I wrote stuff for it, but this wasn't my best.
And yet I heard that you felt that it was your best singing, though. Or you said, you had mentioned it on a record, interview record, whether you meant it or not, I don't know.
Well, you tend to go out and promote the records that you're playing. I think I sang pretty good on it, but I didn't think I wrote that well on it. I really had to force, except for Just Get Through This Night.
Yeah, that's great, yeah.
That one had nothing to do with the concept. I wrote that while we were in Japan.
Right.
I sort of snuck that one in. But, yeah, one's words certainly come back to haunt you.
Is that where you played the shamisen? Is that jazz?
Yeah.
Does that interest you? Exotic types of things like that?
Yeah. In fact, I was driving around looking at music stores the other day, and I almost bought, there's this, I can't remember what it was called. It was like a middle octave mandolin with a long neck on it. I can't remember what it was called. But I think I'm going to go back and get that, because it's got a real unusual sound to it.
You played a lot of mandolin through the years, haven't you?
Well, I played it a few times. I played it on this album, too, although it's not, you can't hear it very well. I played it on Kiss Me Hello. On the,
yeah, right.
That's one of the instruments that's on there.
Right. So there was some trepidation in stepping out?
Well, it was just, I think it was something that no one could understand with me for a while. But I think once we all accepted that was what was going to happen, I think everyone, because I just saw Chuck Panazzo, he seemed to be having a good time not being on the road. And I know Dennis is probably enjoying himself, getting to make a whole album on his own and not be really bound by any sort of group production ideas or any concept.
Right.
Because I noticed that he didn't make his into a concept album.
Right. So how did Mike's thing come about? I mean, were there several producers that you were...
Yeah, I had a list. I had a list of a few, and Mike was at the top of it. And once I talked to Mike, I threw the list away.
Did you feel an affinity towards the Journey stuff? I mean, to me it has a slight Journey feel. I mean, I might be wrong.
I don't think it has a Journey feel. I think Mike has a signature on his drums.
Yeah. Drums?
Yeah, when Mike makes those big arena-sounding drums. And that, I think, was one of the main things I was interested in. But at the same time, I wanted someone who would let me make the record. And Mike mixed the record. And he was perfect for that, because he and I got along really well. And there were no problems. It was real easy. So the music just sort of poured onto the tape.
Right. Had you shown any of these tunes to Styx at all?
Yeah, I had. a few of them, and I pretty much knew that that wasn't the type of stuff they wanted to do, but I offered it anyway.
Mm-hmm. You always seemed, and this isn't meant as a insult at all, more a comment. You always seemed the odd man out in that band. You know, your tunes were always go on from the Tommy Shaw tune, you know, and you know. So
Well, those guys were a band a long time before I joined them, and I molded my style around theirs for a long time, but I suppose that's really sort of subjective, you know. But I've always felt that being in Styx was, you know, like joining a club that, you know, it was all these guys were lifetime members, and I was a new member no matter what I did. You know, for 8.5 years, I was still a new guy.
You never knew if you got the job, huh?
Yeah.
But I mean, your first record with the band, I mean, you wrote the title tune.
Mm-hmm.
So certainly they must have realized that your contributions were going to be major.
Yeah, I think so. But it just never felt like I had that sort of say-so in the band. Well, you know, you can only have so many chiefs in something like that, and I just accepted that. But after that many years, it was time for me to go feel what it was like to actually move up to the top position.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, when you do your own album, just like anyone else who does it, you know, you really have to make all the decisions, and you have to write all the songs, or at least, you know, be on top of everything that's going on. So all that extra responsibility was also good for me, because I was tending to just sort of waste my time a lot because I had nothing else to do with it.
Yeah. Do you think that your playing has taken on any new character? Playing with the new rhythm section, I mean, for the first time in 8 years, you know, playing all the solos, playing all the rhythm parts.
Yeah, for the first time, I didn't assemble any guitar solos. The last couple of albums, I've been doing that a lot. Just, you know, do 3 or 4 guitar solos, and then I would assemble one from maybe 3 or 4.
I mean, splicing and
just through electronic switching.
Really?
And this time, I just played them all straight through.
A new impression of.
Yeah.
So pretty much live solos then?
Yeah. There was a lot of, we on all our basic tracks on this, we played them all live, all 4 of the band members in the studio at the same time.
And you're using Charvels, which is relatively new for you?
Sure, I bought the Charvel during rehearsal in New York, and the rest of my guitars, I carried them around with me, but they were mainly just something to look at in the studio. They sat around and gathered dust.
Really? What was it about the Charvel that captured you?
I think there's something real warm about the hand-rubbed finish on this neck. It's not, I mean, you have the same guitar pretty much. You can,
right.
It feels like it's broken in already.
Yeah.
And you get your own, the oil from your own skin in there, and it actually becomes part of you, which guitars really are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're an extension of you. They're something you stand behind. There's something that guitar players know that. You know, if you really use your guitar, it's like your third arm.
Can you describe the Charvel that you have?
I have a black one that's very similar to this one. It's a Strat body, twin pickups, and let's say that mine has the volume and tone control, and just the 3-way toggles. Very, very simple.
Mm-hmm. Vibrato?
Yeah, I have a Howard Rose on mine.
What Rose?
Howard Rose. He's a booking agent. Oh, Floyd Rose. Howard Rose is currently on my guitar, and I wish he'd get off of it.
Yeah. Hmm.
He was the Eagles' booking agent. I don't know why I thought of that.
Funny. What kind of amps did you bring in the studio?
I brought a new amp that I bought that was one of these that's supposed to do everything, and I wound up going and renting an old Marshall amp.
Really?
And playing through Celestians.
Really?
I just cranked it up. You got the one with a single volume control on it, and I just threw, you know, those tone controls were meaningless on those things. So I just used the different level of volumes on it and the different settings on the guitar.
That's 100?
Yeah, I've used 100.
What was the amp that you brought in?
I'm not going to say because I like the guy that I bought it from.
Super Duncan?
No. I did use that other one, but I didn't use it enough to. I wound up using the Marshall.
Yeah. Is the Marshall the main amp you use with Styx?
I went through different phases. I tried something different every tour. For a while, I used a little electronic acoustic amplifier,
Really?
and then I didn't use that for very long. And then I used a boogie, a modified boogie head, for a couple of tours. And before that, we all used high watts. I mean,
Really?
well, we had high watts. So they wouldn't even give us a discount. So we changed the labels to Heineken. We lighten up high watt.
And what was there certain amps that you used in the studio with Styx?
Yeah, I would use the boogie, and I'd use Marshall. My Marshall that I had has the volume and master on it. And we have a little tiny Marshall practice amp that JY and I both used. They were dressing room amplifiers.
Mm.
And so we tend to use those a lot. I use those on my demos a lot.
Really?
Because, well, first of all, I keep gear in the studio, and so I can keep a small arrangement of I'm trying to look in the camera and talk at the same time.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So I keep like a little drum machine, a small amplifier like that, a guitar and a bass, and a mandolin, and just stuff like that in a little closet over in the studio.
Mm-hmm. So recording in a different studio must have been something interesting.
Yeah, I started doing that when we were on the road. If we were in a city where we'd have a day off or something between shows, I'd go in. Started in London, and did it in Japan. I did it here in town. I did it in Chicago and in New York and New Jersey, and so I got to play in some different studios that way too. And I sort of, with Styx, we tend to do something. If something works, we stick with it. And we found a studio out in the suburbs of Chicago that all the Styx albums up past Pieces of 8 were recorded.
Yeah.
So we never really got out of that studio very much.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what the current state of the art was. And I found out pretty much on this record. The studio I demoed in Japan with that was fully automated, and so was the one over in London. We recorded analog, though. We didn't record digital. We mastered digitally. Mastered on analog and on digital.
Explain to me the difference.
Well, with digital, you have absolutely zero tape noise. And we considered those two options, and I started thinking, for rock and roll, a little compression and a little noise is all part of the game. On soft melodic things, digital is okay. Acoustic sounding things, digital is great. But I wanted a little bit nastier sound. So that's why we did analog.
Mm-hmm.
But we did, for cassettes, we did a digital because we didn't want two tape discs on top of one another.
Right. Working with James for so long, do you feel that your style, like you were talking about before, tended to be molded around his parts and his style, and I mean, how did the two styles differ?
I think our styles got to be more and more alike as the years went on.
Yeah, towards the end, it was a little hard to tell who's.
Yeah, because I would see him doing something. Anytime you play with somebody, you try and steal the things that they do well, and try and work them into your own style. Yeah. Because JY is strictly rock and roll player, and I really try to get some of his rock and roll moves out of that.
Mm-hmm.
And JY over the years, I think, picked up some of my more melodic things.
Right. You're a real lyrical player. All your solos are like
they're melodies.
No, someone could have singing.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
I don't know. I didn't. You're the first person who asked. No, that's not true. I think it's just you play whatever comes out, and Well, that seems to be what I'm inspired to play.
Did you tend to listen to those types of players?
I've really never listened to any one particular player.
Really?
You know, not very much, because I always, when I was in high school, I was playing in clubs and playing popular music. So we'd go get the 45s and play the 45 and figure out the chord pattern on it, and you know, we'll write down the chords and write down the first couple of verses, and then we just jam on the rest of it.
Okay.
And the hell with playing somebody else's solo, because I'm playing in a club, I'm going to play one 10 minutes long, you know. So that's really, I guess I would take the idea of someone's solo, and then I would just expand on that in club. That's why clubs are such a great training ground, because you can play these songs for 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's half the side of an album. You can't do that.
Right. You had a club band,
MS Funk.
MS Funk.
Yeah.
What was that like?
That was great. We didn't know the first thing about business. So, you know, like they say, ignorance is bliss. It was a blissful time on the road, because all we knew how to do was just go out and have a good time, and just barely make enough to make ends meet, and keep outrunning the people who were trying to repossess our trucks. They finally caught up with us, and we finally gave back the U-Haul trailer that we ripped off when I first joined the band. We had it out for about 3 years, and finally left it off overnight in the service station. But we had a great time. We have kind of a little alumni. We still get together once in a while.
That was, you think that was the beginning of where the style started coming from?
Well, I was playing in a soul band down in Alabama.
Really?
Where I was a blue-eyed soul brother in this all-black band. All black except for me. And so I learned a lot of soulful things there.
Doing like R&B stuff?
Yeah, we were definitely R&B and popular soul music at the time. We had a lead singer who was named Marion Sledge, who came out and did like a James Brown review.
Mm.
And, you know, with all the hand signals, the dynamic, blah, you know, bring it down, you know, take it to the bridge and all that stuff. And I learned a lot from that. I learned a lot of rhythm, because they wanted me to play Chinka Chinka Funky stuff.
Right.
So I learned a lot of rhythm stuff from them. But I think playing in the clubs with MS Funk probably gave me the most. Well, there was one band before I did any of that that I played in when I was in my last 2 years of high school, called the Jabbo Stokes Band. Jabbo Stokes and the Jive Rockets is what we call ourselves. And we played 6 nights a week, played 5 sets a night, 6 nights a week. So we played 30 sets a week.
Wow. And
just played our asses off. You know, and that was where you want to play solo, you look around and tell everybody when you're through.
Right. That's great. Were you singing then?
Mm-hmm.
Have you been singing pretty much from the beginning?
Yeah, well, let's see. No, that's not true either. I started singing about, I take that back. My first time on stage, I was singing.
Really?
So, but I was never like a lead singer. I would be like the guitar player who sang. You know, and it took me a long time before I became a lead singer.
Mm. When do you think you became a lead singer?
Let's say about 3 months ago.
No, it's not sure.
Well, I sang leads on Styx albums, but anything. I guess when I joined Styx, I became one of the lead singers. This band I was in with Eddie Wolford, who's on my record, I was one of 3 singers, but I always considered myself the lesser of the 3.
Mm.
Because those guys had such great voices. And I used to back them up, really.
Yeah, great voice.
Thank you. I think it's getting better.
It's really good. It's really special. What kind of guitars were you using in those early days?
I was using Les Paul, I believe. I had this Les Paul Deluxe.
Deluxe. They were great guitars. I don't know that's
mine. I ran over it one time at Calumet City. We were playing. It was with MS Funk and me and this friend of mine. It was real cold out. There was snow on the ground, and we've been eyeballing this carload of girls. And I set it down next to the van, leaned up against there, and I'm, looking at these girls like, yeah, I'm in the band, how about it? And so we got in the van and started to drive off, and we're looking at the girls, and they're going, ah! Waving their arms around, and we're going, oh, yeah, see you later. And they finally got our attention. We stopped and got out and looked, and the front left wheel of the van was sitting right on the neck of my guitar. Oh, shit.
What
I still got it, but I had it glued back together, but it doesn't play very good.
What did you use on the first Styx record?
I used I had Les Paul Standard.
Standard.
Is that which is the one with the bigger pickups on it?
Standard.
The Standard.
You know, it's in the deluxe. They have the bigger pickups by the name, but it's
Right.
Standard. I believe.
The Standard.
Yeah. All right.
And after that, I got into an Explorer.
Uh,
I had an Explorer that had been around for quite a bit. Howard, what's his name from Heart?
Reese.
Howard Leese owned it for a while, and my guitar roadie had sold it to him. He bought it back
Really?
from Howard, and then sold it to me.
So you were pretty much a Gibson player.
Yeah, I've bought Strats off and on through the years, and I'd still wind up going and digging out the Gibson. It's taken me a long time to find something that I like better than Gibson. But then I got into an Ibanez when I was in Japan. They call it Ibanez in Japan.
Okay.
And
What do they know?
yeah, they don't even make them. Yeah, they always have to correct me when I'm down there because I still say Ibanez. But I got into an Ibanez Artist for a couple of years. Really, I still like that.
You like it?
It's a nice standby. Real versatile, and it's well made. But then when I got this, I got the one like this.
Sure.
Yeah, this really, I think, best all around. And I like the idea that it's just, everything on there sounds good. You don't have to go looking around to find a good sound on it.
Yeah. So had you heard the first 4 Styx records before joining the band?
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
All I knew, I had heard "Lady," and I thought that was just a local hit because I was living in Chicago where they were from, and I knew they played high schools and things around there like that. But I didn't know that song had really made them, known all over the world. So I was a little shocked when I went over there and did the audition and they played Equinox. I wasn't expecting a record that good.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So when they said got the gig, I mean, what were you feeling?
I still didn't. I was still sort of surprised and sort of in shock over the whole thing. And I still didn't. I asked Jim Vos, who had suggested me to them. He took me back to the airport and as I was going back home, I was saying, "Is this as good as I think it is?" And he said yes. Trust your instincts on this one. He said it really is. This is going to be big.
Wow. Looking back at that first record, how do you think you played? I mean,
On Crystal Ball,
yeah.
I think I played well. Shoes, I played slide on that one, and obviously wasn't a big demand for me to do that sort of music after that because that was the last time.
Was it really? Well, could we just kind of come from backwards and forwards and real quickly, which is what I was trying to surreptitiously do here. The Grand Illusion, to my mind, the guitar sounds are getting a little more sophisticated. You hear that?
On Grand Illusion?
Yeah, on the album itself.
Um,
It sounds like you're trying some different things.
Trying to think of what was on that.
Miss America sounds like a solo you did in the Strat.
That was Jay White played that.
That was his solo?
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Man of Wilderness.
Yeah, that was all that was an old wah-wah pedal
That's what
at half mast and
I was gonna show you.
yeah, just how you get that raw hollow sound.
Yeah.
You leave it in the halfway position, and I just turned my amp up so loud that several people were killed on their way out of the studio.
Wow. Was that Les Paul?
So I think that was the Les Paul. Yeah. I didn't get into the other guitar until I believe it was Pieces of Eight.
I mean, Man of Wilderness suggests a real kind of a folky kind of a background. I mean, a lot of your tunes have that little acoustic. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I started out playing acoustic guitar.
You did.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you play all the acoustic guitar parts in all the Styx records, right?
Yeah. Yeah, Jay White didn't like acoustic. He was strictly a Strat.
Yeah.
Well, he's kind of gotten away from the Strat.
Yeah. Pieces of Eight. Blue Collar Man. Big rhythm guitar sound.
Yeah. Yeah, that was to the big room. Blue Collar was that was on Pieces of Eight.
Yeah.
That was still Barry Mraz too, engineering that. And I think we put that out in the hallway.
Really?
And did a hallway sound with it. There's an old walk-up in Chicago, and with all tile floors and things like that up there. And we did on Renegade. That's how we got the drum sound on that. We put microphones on every floor, all the way down to the bottom, and just staggered that the echo like that, and then
Really?
reversed it. So we use those hallways to their best ability.
Yeah, that's great. Cornerstone, Love in the Midnight. It's a 12-string acoustic guitar.
That's Love in the Midnight. Where did that go? Okay. Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was, I believe I used the old regular 6-string guitar, and I strung it up with the high strings and overdubbed the high strings.
Really?
That's what I did. I did that with Crystal Ball too.
Really?
It's like a finger pick.
That's great.
It's a bitch finger pick and a 12-string.
Absolutely. Yeah. You did a lot of writing on Cornerstone too.
Yeah, that on Cornerstone and on Pieces of Eight. Those are my two best Styx albums.
In terms of your writing, or in terms of playing?
In terms of my writing.
Yeah. Was it just an energetic period?
Yeah, it was. And it was a period where I just seemed to get more material on the album.
Mm.
For one reason or another.
You play auto harp?
Yeah, that's an easy one. So we did a real weird tuning on the auto harp in Love in the Midnight. I believe it was Love in the Midnight, where that real long strum.
Yeah.
Yeah, on that. So it's all the strings were open. We tuned the whole thing to
Oh, really?
chord. Yeah.
Paradise Theater. Too Much Time on My Hands. The solo. Very interesting sound. I know it's hard for you to recall these things up to mind. It's kind of a fuzzy kind of a sound in the solo. Overdriven maybe.
Oh yeah, that was overdriven on something. Can't remember what it was. Let's see. Oh, I know. There was Rocco had a harmonic. I can't remember the name. I think it was some sort of Roland effect. But it was a parametric, little portable parametric equalizer with overdrive on it.
Really?
So he could tune in and find out which range of the solo that you wanted to really feed back, and you could just pump that little part of it instead of having the rest of it being out of control.
Great. I mean, in general, I think one of the characteristics you've always had is different color textures and tones and rhythm parts having different.
Yeah, I've tried to just hear it in my head what the color of the song should be.
Right.
Whether it should be just cranking or it should be a little more subtle. And tried to always make it like that, even if I had to construct the solo, like I was saying, through switching and that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's easy enough to learn it after you've finished it, but to play it great as you're making it up, that's never been my real strong suit.
Right. I mean, can you look back at the Styx records and pick out anything that stands out for you?
The Blue Collar Man solo, I like that one.
Really?
I just heard that on the radio. I guess that's why it's fresh on my mind. Let's see. I like the Too Much Time solo.
Do you?
Yeah.
So you tend to.
And Crystal Ball. I think Crystal Ball. I think that's for all. I mean, best all around. I think that's one of the tastiest things I did.
Really? So you kind of started.
Yeah, I worked my way down.
So could you just run down basically what, like the gear that you're using on the last Styx tour, a basic live setup?
I had some guitars called. What the hell are the names of them? I have to think of the names of them. These guitars that are made in Elkhart, Indiana. And I had a Strat, the new reissue solid piece of wood Strat.
Mm-hmm.
And I had Silver Streak, that's the name of these guitars.
Silver Streak?
Silver Streak is the company who makes these guitars.
Oh.
And they made a bunch of different odd-sized ones. I didn't have the Charvel by then. I played through Boogie Head, high-watt bottoms, what we call them Heinekens, with Celestians in them.
Oh, really?
and through the Navy wirelesses.
The CD.
And Guild acoustic. What I wound up liking the best was Takamine acoustic,
Really?
6-string. Yeah, definitely a lot better than. I played a Guild for a long time. The Guild's a great lap guitar, but for playing live with a pickup, the Takamine is the best. And I played a little. I can't remember the name of the accordion either. Not accordion, the mandolin.
Mandolin.
And I think it might have been. Who was the company that the guitar that looked like Gibson's?
Martin.
Epiphone. Epiphone mandolin.
Okay. Just are you going to go out and perform?
Yeah. I'm gonna get packed. Well, I'm already packed. Take my pick up my guitar and just hop on the next moving tour.
Is Styx still a band?
This Styx hasn't broken up. No, I haven't received any word in the mail or anything that I'm fired. Or, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. But I think we'll get back together and make another record.
Yeah. I'm just wondering how you and James used to work out parts, and how would you decide who played what, and was there any kind of was it kind of a friendly competition thing there? And
seems like we wind up playing solos on each other's songs.
Really?
I played solo on JY's song, and he played on mine. But it wasn't always the rule. Really just depended on who had an idea for the solo first.
Mm-hmm.
If I had some thread of an idea, or something as simple as one guy felt more like playing that day.
Yeah.
And sometimes one of us would play a solo and just wouldn't get anywhere with it, and so the other guy would come in.
Were both you guys out there like the rhythm parts? Were both parts put down at the same time?
I wound up, I used to consider myself pretty much a rhythm guitarist, but I wound up the last couple of records not playing very much rhythm guitar. Just really didn't play that much on the last couple of records.
Really?
I would play leads or acoustics.
You consider yourself a rhythm guitarist?
I used to consider myself also a rhythm guitarist.
Also,
rhythm and lead. And, I mean, I played all the rhythm and lead on my new record.
Right.
But I didn't feel like putting two rhythm guitars on the album. JY started becoming real good at his rhythms. Where in the beginning, JY didn't play rhythm at all. He played strictly lead.
Really?
Then he got more into playing rhythm parts. He came up with some great rhythm parts.
Was that from watching you, do you think?
We probably learned a lot from each other like that.
I mean, how?
I think both of us sort of learned that it was okay to do both.
And you mentioned earlier that a lot of your rhythm playing came from those early club days. Playing. Yeah.
Really liked playing those kind of things because it was mostly improvisational until you did it 9 or 10 times. Then you developed a whole series of little riffs that were originally jam things and then turned into the arrangement.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you have a strong working knowledge of chords and voicings and things? I saw when you were playing, you tend to pick out notes and things almost like a piano voicing type thing. Is that something?
I guess I do. It's just sort of an unconscious thing that I do.
Yeah. Do you use your other fingers when you play rhythm parts or picking things? I mean, I know you mentioned that.
Depends on the song. If it's more dynamic, sometimes I'll finger pick. Seems like I remember Best of Times doing something like that.
No, really?
Live, I only do it. But yeah, really, didn't have any rules. It was just whatever was right for the situation.
Yeah. If you were to sit and practice, what kinds of things would you practice?
It was on acoustic. I'd practice finger picking, and let's see, if it was on electric, I would practice scales or just blues stuff.
Mm-hmm. Are there certain scales that you tend to work from in your solos? I mean, certain kinds of fingerings?
Well, the only reason I finally had to change my technique. I had to develop a technique after I played about 8 years because I was only using, my index finger, my middle finger, and my third finger.
Really?
And never used my little finger. And there's only so far you can get doing that. So I I had never really learned my scales, so I started just working on the scales until they got me back to where I was practicing, and then my little finger became part of the team.
Did you find your speed increased?
Found the speed increased and my lack of having to think about it quite so much. I'm still not a real speed kind of player.
Would you like to have that ability? I mean, is it important to you to be like the guitar hero sort?
Well, my only trouble is I'm a singer, guitar player.
Right.
So I have to do so many things at once that I really reserve it for when it's time to play the solos.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest of the time I'm backing myself up.
Mm-hmm. Can you describe your right hand picking? I mean, anything that you might do that's special or?
Oh, it's something I do unconsciously. Is I rest the ball of my hand. It's just where your little finger goes down to your wrist, that meaty part there.
Right.
I end up resting that on the bridge a lot of times.
You do.
And it's just a bad habit, but it mutes the strings a lot of times.
They consider that a bad habit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll do that once in a while. You'll be playing, then you'll like mute the strings, and
yeah,
that's where that comes from. That.
Yeah.
Can you talk a bit about the picks and the strings that you use?
Use Fender extra light. Is that what you call
it? The picks?
No, the strings.
The strings. Yeah. What
starts with an 8?
Wow. Yeah, that is extra light.
But not on. I use medium gauge on the acoustic.
You do. Have you always used such thin strings?
On every guitar except for the Charvel. I went to a little heavier one on the Charvel. Back up to a 9, I think. But actually, I did change. I just got a bunch of those old extra lights at home. I went back up to a 9 and into a 10.
Was there a reason for that?
Well, when I got a nicer, I think the guitars that were a little more articulate, it made more sense to have, a truer string.
Mm-hmm.
For really just bending the shit out of them.
Yeah.
It seems like it's like a vicious cycle. If you get lighter gauge strings so you can bend them more, your fingers get weaker.
Yeah.
And then pretty soon those become hard to bend.
And picks?
Let's see. I go from a medium to a light.
Really?
Medium on the acoustic. Or heavy. Actually, a lot of times I would just wind up desperate and I'll take anything. I used to always have a pocket full of picks back when I used to buy 3 for a quarter, and have to think about, really saving them. But
right.
Over the last few tours, I've gotten, we buy them by the gross.
Yeah.
And I'm so used to flinging them out into the crowd. You get these light ones, and they're only good for about a song. So you fling them out into the crowd, and they're little personalized picks.
Mm-hmm.
But now, so as a result of that, I never had any picks anymore because I've always given them away. I was using the other night on Rockline, but I brought that with the rental guitar.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So
I traded Joe Walsh 2 picks like that for a guitar one night.
You're kidding.
Yeah. So here, you go ahead and take it. Yeah. Well, let me give you these 2 picks for it. It's all right. I lost both picks.
He traded you the picks?
He traded me the picks for the guitar. It seemed like a good deal at the time.
What kind of guitar did you give him?
Little black silver streak.
Really?
Streaked.
Huh. Was Walsh someone you've listened to?
We were jamming it, and he liked the guitar. We were playing through Rockman. I was playing an acoustic, and he was playing my little guitar through a Rockman.
Mm. Mm. So how do you get any support in a thin pick like that?
Just do.
It just does. Huh?
You don't really need to beat the strings. What I found with the thin pick was that I didn't break hardly nearly as many strings as I used to. Because when you start banging on it with a thick piece of plastic that doesn't give,
yeah,
your string can only take so much of that.
Yeah.
And I used to break a lot of strings. Because you get carried away while you're playing. You really start beating the shit out of your guitar, and next thing you know, you got taking the skin off your knuckles, and you're changing your strings a lot.
Right, right. What did you think about your playing on the live album?
Thought it was okay. Some stuff I repaired.
Did you?
Like my Come Sail Away solo, I replayed in the studio.
Really?
But I hadn't been satisfied with it live for a long time. And the night that we recorded it, I didn't like what I played. So I went back and replayed it. If you listen real closely on the live album, you can hear the real solo in the hall.
Oh, really?
Just a little bit, yeah.
I'll take a listen. Yeah. So we talked before briefly about playing with Pinoza as the rhythm section. I mean, how do you think that shaped your style? I mean, or how do you think you play differently with these new guys?
I think these guys play a little funkier than the Pinozas. Excuse me, John's more of a rudimental type drummer, more because he listens to a lot of marching things like that, and he's got a real definitive style. He's a real animal on the drums.
Right.
And he's like the real backbeat sound of Styx. But these guys play a little more, I don't know if it's looser, but just it's hard to describe the difference in sound, but it's not quite as John's pretty rigid and straight ahead like that. And these guys are a little more fluid.
Right.
And they're both. I like both styles, but this is nice. Good enough. It's different.
Right. Will you take this band on the road with you?
Mm-hmm.
So there won't be a second guitar player?
I don't think so. I'm gonna try and do it all myself. It might be 2 keyboard players.
I see. You do play third on keyboards also?
I write a lot of things on keyboard.
Do you? Is that where most of your writing comes from?
Lately, it has been. I finally developed a way to write songs on the piano and have the guitar playing in my head.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
You can hear like the parts that would go over the keyboards.
John Pinozzo, up till I met Steve, has been the best drummer I've ever worked with.
Really?
And it's not that Steve's a better drummer; they're just different drummers. John's a real powerhouse on stage.
So you like that? I'm in that bottom school of drumming. Is that where you come from?
I've just really not any particular school. A lot of different schools.
Yeah. Can you talk a little about the keyboards that you did play with Styx and on the new record?
What I did was Styx. There's a lot of the vocoder parts and a lot of synthesizer sweetening parts I would do. Like on the Paradise Theater, the vocoder things and that I did.
Which synthesizer specifically did you use?
Let's see, what do we mind up using? I think the OBX through the vocoder, the electronics.
You never played any keyboards live, did you?
Yeah, on the last tour I did. Actually, maybe it was the last 2 tours. Yeah, Paradise. Yeah, I played it on not Rockin' Paradise, but what the hell was the name of the song? Best of Times.
Was George Harrison somebody you listened to?
Oh, I used to play all Harrison's leads. He's the only person that I probably ever really copied, note for note.
Yeah, I can hear some of his playing.
Yeah, he was a melodic player.
Oh, he is unbelievable.
He is a melodic player. He's still around.
Did you used to do Beatles songs?
Yeah, love doing Beatles songs. I still sit around with friends who sit around like a bunch of old hippies and play Beatles songs because most of my friends know the words to them. Mm-hmm. And if they don't, I've got songbooks.
I think maybe that's where Lennon, maybe some of your rhythm maybe came from too.
Could be. Yeah, he was great on acoustic. It was just a mean style. It wasn't no real finesse. Just bang on it.
Yeah, it was pretty. Yeah. Did Styx mean much in Europe and England?
Not as much as in the United States.
Yeah.
Best thing that we did for ourselves here was we went out there and played and gave people a chance to see us live, and that's been our best selling point. And in Europe and Japan and England, we haven't been there enough to really get as much exposure as we had.
I thought Styx did pretty well in Japan.
We played the Budokan, sold it out. We sold out a tour.
Yeah.
But when I think of doing well, I think of being the best.
Yeah.
And still, domestically, I think their bands would be better than any sort of imported groups like us, like YMO, would sell 1 million albums there, and they could play multiple nights. It was, we never got to that level.
Just did a thing with a band called Loudness. It's a heavy metal band over there. They just got a deal over here, so I'm curious to see how it, works in reverse.
Yeah.
Because I know you did the more I got Mr. Buck.
That demo would just get through this night in Japan too.
That's right.
With a Japanese drummer.
Really? What was he like?
It was great. It proved that music is a universal language because he couldn't understand English.
Really? And the studios are pretty comparable?
Same thing. I had an engineer. I had moto guitar. Motos. I forget how you say less guitar. I just learned more and less.
So the equipment is all
state of the art.
Is it?
Yeah. It was real good. Best studio I'd worked in up to that point.
Would you like to do any producing with bands?
Oh yeah, I'd love to.
Have you ever done anything like that?
I've only produced myself.
So, what did you?
I guess that's what I'm practicing with by doing my own demos. Watching Mike Stone. I'm a good monkey see, monkey do kind of guy. Although it's a little more complicated than just that. But
I know it is.
I've got it with a good engineer. I produce good sounding stuff.
Yeah. So if a band came along, or just you did.
Yeah. My biggest problem is time.
Yeah.
Because I'm one of those artists who really got to go out there and be seen. And some artists can just release a record and say, no interviews, I'm not talking to anyone, and go out there and just be a big success. But it's always been that way with me. At least in Styx. You got to go out there and hit the trail.
Right.
You got to go tour and go do all those things. So there's no time to take 3 months and work on something else. Someday, I'd like to have this phase of my career be so that I wouldn't play a tour and get it done, but not make it 100 dates or more. I'd like to have a little time to stretch out some.
Right. Okay. That's terrible.
Okay. Good.